when we launched, we announced that we were allocating or guiding to spending $10 billion over an 8-year period. Right? This would be 2021 to 2028. And that's just the starting point. So these are already a significant part of our capital allocation strategy. We have a very large oil and gas business, which requires a lot of capital to maintain and grow that business to meet global demand. But these businesses, we're spending anywhere from $1.5 to $2 billion a year to support these new businesses. And my job and our job as a new segment is to find the right opportunities that are investable so we can grow this business even further.
So Paul asked this question in break, and I actually think it's a good one, so I'm going to ask it. You're based in Houston, and his question was, are guys like you, the new energy people, are you guys welcome in Houston?
Like the oil bar, like the oilman's bar, like that I would go to.
He's basically thinking like the cowboy guys who stick like a pipe in the ground and get oil. He's thinking those people. Are you welcome in those bars?
Yes. And I love being referred to as a new energy person. But no, I mean, this is, I think this, look, there's three things that we really need to see in order to accelerate the growth of these businesses, and that's greater collaboration between private companies and policymakers, between governments around the world. It's lowering the cost of these new technologies and solutions, so customers, large businesses, or individual customers will buy them, and it is bringing capabilities to bear, the right capabilities. And that goes to your Houston question. The energy industry possesses a lot of the capabilities, technical, operating, commercial capabilities that are required to grow these businesses profitably to scale. So absolutely, a lot of activity in Houston, a lot of companies engaged in this. So Houston, it's an oil and gas capital. That's how it's thought of. It's also a new energy capital.
So where are we in terms of, I've been reading a lot on this. Alix, she knows that she's the expert. I've been reading up a lot on this over the last several days. It seems like the U.S. government's putting a lot of money into this. That's the good news, as Alix mentioned earlier. But I've also heard here over the last couple of days, it's still not easy doing business with the government. I'm thinking permitting for certain projects and things like that. What's been your experience there as to, is the government doing the best it can to kind of facilitate some of these investments and transition?
Yeah, so collaboration between the private sector and the public sector is fundamental here. It helps lower the cost. Those are, advocacy, understanding politics, not just in this country but around the world, is a strength of our company, of energy companies, more broadly. So it fits one of our existing capabilities. But that is one of the starting points here. You need the right policy support, the right incentives to get the private sector investing even more heavily in this space. That will drive the technology forward, that will drive innovation, that will drive to building large-scale projects, which will lower the cost, make it more consumable for the world. And that is a cycle that will then continue. So it starts with policy, but it really is sustained by the investment by the private sector in technology. Government's a very important partner. We've seen, we're having really constructive conversations with the government, but you mentioned permitting. There's still a long way to go to make all of this come together. We've shown some progress, but there are many steps in front of us.
Paul, though, to your point, it seems like the good part of this is that energy companies in the new energy world are in the room talking to people. Yep. Typically, the government and oil and gas have a contentious relationship at best in certain administrations, and it feels like in this area, maybe that is dissolving a bit, which would be helpful. Something that I've noticed, too, is that I think it was like $303 billion has been spent, I think it was last year, on all these new energy stuff. What I'm also hearing is that demand is a forgotten problem. Like, all the money is being spent, but the money being spent on supplying the stuff and getting that cost down, but not enough is being spent on demand to incentivize a company signing up with you for ESAF or something along those lines. Is that true?
There is a lot of money being spent in these new businesses. It's actually $1.7 trillion globally, compared to about $1 trillion spent in the traditional energy business last year. And we need even more to grow these businesses to scale. And you hit on a very important point. It is, and I'll use hydrogen as an example. It's not hard to produce hydrogen. It's harder to produce low-carbon hydrogen at a low cost, something that we're working on using natural gas as a feedstock or using electricity and renewable power as feedstocks to produce low-carbon hydrogen. But transporting hydrogen to the market, you need policy support in order to do that. You need technological innovation to do that, to lower the cost. And then importantly, encouraging consumers to buy hydrogen, making it easier for them to transition from a traditional product that they're using today to a lower carbon product that comes at a higher cost. That's where demand incentives and policy support will also be required.
What's the biggest headwind you guys have been facing over the last 3 years as you begin this transition? Has it been on the regulatory governmental front? Has it been capital, getting capital from your CFO? Where's it been?
No, there's always a lot of challenges when
Yep.
you're starting up new businesses, but it's very, very exciting, and we're making tremendous progress. We've identified probably a dozen large foundational projects in all of these sectors around not just the U.S. but around the world. We're the second largest bio-based diesel producer in the United States. We've got a large CCUS hub on the U.S. Gulf Coast. We've got a large hydrogen project in Utah that we're growing. So we're making a lot of progress. There's always challenges along the way. How do you prioritize the best opportunities? How do you advocate for the right policies? How do you create the right culture to support these businesses? We have a fantastic culture in our company. We're using all of that and more, but you have to think about these businesses in a different way. So there are challenges, but it has been very rewarding at the same time.
He's not going to answer that question, Paul.
Well, we'll see. I'm looking at the stock here.
I thought I did answer it.
We're looking for hey, what's really hard? What stresses you out?
Well, it's all hard.
Yeah.
And so all of that, how can we collaborate, more aggressively? How can we lower the costs faster?
Yeah.
How can we bring all of the capabilities we have to bear here? How do we make sure that everyone remains committed to this? Not just us, but everyone in this ecosystem to drive these businesses forward. So those are all big challenges. I'm not discounting that,
Jeff.
but I'm very excited about what we're doing.